Hey there, folks. I'm Joey DeAngelis, your host for Silent Film Saturday, the now bi-weekly series where I analyze and take a look at silent films, from the great ones to the bad ones to the lesser-known ones. This week I am reviewing the 1923 version of Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, which was later remade in 1956, starring Charlton Heston and Yul Brynner. Now, before I begin, let me just say this. This packaging is awesome. Now, there's a bigger box set. There's a box set that was released of the Blu-ray for the Ten Commandments, which includes both versions and includes like a lot of books and like press materials and all that stuff. But the best part about it is this tablet. I just want to show you this tablet. You know, it's like the Ten Commandments themselves. Open it up, and you got the Blu-rays. And you got the DVDs, and on the other side, you got the Ten Commandments 1923 Blu-ray. So this thing's in high definition, baby. And then, yep, more bonus features. So, just make sure that it's in there. Get cautious with this kind of stuff. Anyway, just put that back. There we go. And make sure that it doesn't fall over. Anyhow, this is the edition of the Ten Commandments I have reviewed. I believe it could be the best possible version that's out on home media, to my knowledge at least. How does the film fare? Now, my opinions on the Ten Commandments. I was going to do a Silent Links episode, but unfortunately I ran out of time this week. But I will talk about that film someday in the future because it is a favorite of mine. Even though it does have its problems. The Ten Commandments is a beautiful looking, lush, technicolor, biblical epic that tells the story of Moses, played by Charlton Heston. From being sent down the river till, his incredibly old age at the end of the film. Now, both versions, like I said, were directed by Cecil B. DeMille, who is really one of the most intriguing figures in Hollywood. In fact, I remember watching on YouTube the documentary series Hollywood, which is about the silent era of the documentary itself, and he's talking about, and James Mason narrates and says, Cecil B. DeMille's name was written in fire and gold in the history of motion pictures. That's my crappy James Mason impersonation, and that was just me paraphrasing, but they said, like, his name is written in fire and gold, and that kind of describes his legacy in a bit. Although, I'm not going to say he's the greatest human being because of the blacklist and other stuff, but at the end of the day, he was a human being, and he made some movies. So, what do I think of the 1923 Ten Commandments? Well, it's not what I expected it to be. Let me say that. Now, the first 50 minutes are about Moses. It doesn't really wholly recount his life like the 1956 version does. It kind of starts off, people are being oppressed. We eventually move on to Moses, who's already put out the 9 plagues, talking to Ramses, and they're going at it. Moses frees his people. The Red River, not the Red River. Thinking the John Wayne movie. The Red Sea is split apart. Sorry. The Red Sea is split apart, and that was done with Jello. In the keep the sea together, it was done with Jello, and I would presume that the water coming, pulling out was done backwards. They were shot backwards. After that, we get a modern story, a contemporary story rather, about 2 brothers, I think Johnny and Johnny and Danny. One of them becomes a carpenter and lives a wholesome life under the Ten Commandments. The other one becomes rich momentarily, but his life becomes a living nightmare. this movie, let me say this, visual stuff is great, especially in the biblical stuff, which is only the first 50 minutes out of a 2 hour and 16-minute movie, which is shocking when you consider it's a movie called The Ten Commandments and you would expect it to be more about Moses, but it's not. One of my favorite scenes is featuring like low-key, some nice low-key lighting, where you have the I know, kind of blanking. I'm a bit tired right now. You have, when Ramsey's son dies, you have this beautiful like light shining through, and like, most of it's black, but you see like the servants and people walking in with Ramsey's son, and Ramsey is shot beautifully. And that was an effective scene, I thought. You know, to capture was Ramsey's son's death. Of course, when you talk about the visuals, you talk about like the horses, you know, with the flood, the Red Sea, you know, flooding. That's pretty incredible. I mean, when you watch that scene, your jaw drops. You know, you look at that. That's like, that was silent films that was the silent era, 1923, man. They just made them so differently back then in a amazingly beautiful way, even though it was dangerous on certain levels. What really gets me though is that it's kind of slow. I don't really feel like I identify with any of the characters, and I feel that the message is really shoved down my throat. This is the type of movie that would be classified as sin and salvation. Back in, you know, Cecil B. DeMille was somewhat devious, I guess you could say, maybe, and you know, in order to get away with, you know, some of the deviant stuff happening, there would have to be a chaos. So what I mean by that is, let's just say I was robbing banks in the movie, then I would eventually get arrested or put to the electric chair or get killed or something to that effect. Same thing happens here. You know, people celebrate with like all these riches and stuff, and then they're punished accordingly. And, you know, that kind of happens in the film to a certain extent, especially with one of the brothers who becomes like this really rich construction guy. And that's really about it. This movie kind of bummed me out. I think part of it has to do with the fact that it's got an organ score, and organ scores can really put you to sleep. Like nobody's business. That's probably part of my lack of enjoyment. I will say though that the print is excellent looking. The print job they did was beautiful. Beautiful, like black and white print. So all I really have to say now is that the film's all right. Visually, it's nice, and I'm glad that they included it on not only the DVD edition but also the Blu-ray edition of the Ten Commandments, because I don't think I would get this film on its own. Only because I'm a silent film collector. If I was just an average movie guy, I probably wouldn't consider picking up the 1923 version if I'd already known that it was not very good. That's just my 2 cents on the film. I know there might be some people out there who really dig the Ten Commandments from 1923, but personally, I don't. Hopefully, Cecil B. DeMille can impress me, because next week I will be reviewing his 1927 film, The King of Kings. See you next week.